So here we go, the messy part. What I want you to do is arrange all your materials so that you can reach them. You've got your red, yellow, blue, black and white paint handy. You've got a brush, a palette knife, and you've got your black, your white and your choice of 2 colours. Now when I say choice of 2 colours, try and choose ones that look very different from each other, and they're going to anyway because they're primaries and you can't really get more different between primary colours. A pot of water, a piece of kitchen roll, that always helps, and a piece of A3 that you've cut down to square, just like we did with the Turkish map fold. Just go corner to corner and rip the excess off, so you're working on a square. So the important thing in my mind about using a limited number of colours is that it really gets you exploring just how many colours you can make from just 1 or 2. And once you understand that, that's when you know what's missing, rather than chucking everything at it and then wondering afterwards, oh, why isn't that working, or why isn't this working? Okay, so limited palette, 2 colours plus black and white. So what I've done here is I've laid my paint on one side of the palette, and I'm going to use this area for mixing. And what we want to try and do is make as many different colours as possible from just those 4. So I'm going to concentrate on one colour first and mix it with varying degrees of white and varying degrees of black. I'm going to do the same thing with the red and the white and black. And then I'm going to maybe mix up those 2 together and do the same thing again and add white, add black, and see how many variations I can mix. Now when you're mixing a colour with white, it's usually called a tint, and if you're mixing a colour with black, it's called a tone. So one thing I always find really helpful is to start with the lighter colour first. So I'm going to put some yellow there. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife so I don't mess up my little stock of white over here. And I'm going to put some white near it here. And I'm going to try and make almost white, just the tiniest hint of yellow in the white, and I'm going to mix it up there. Now you probably won't be able to see this very well on camera, but it's just, if you can see that that is just ever so slightly different from that, then that's what we want. You want to see how light you can go. I'm going to dampen my brush, but I'm also going to wipe it off again before I use it. And I'm probably going to take it off the palette knife. Start anywhere. I'm going to put a little patch there. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off a little. Try and avoid putting too much water into the paint, because then you're going to get more of the paper shining through, and that's going to affect your colour. So once again, I'm going to wipe off my knife, and I'm going to add a bit more yellow this time. I could probably fit another tint in between those 2 if I wanted, but just for the sake of an example, I'm going to go for that. So I think you get the idea. So I might just go see how many shades I can get between white and yellow first, and then I'll start the whole process again with the red and the white. So a tiny bit of, almost, just a tiny bit on your knife, maybe wipe it off again. See, the red is much, much stronger than the yellow was. So I'm going to wipe off my knife, go get some more and mix it in there. Now, the important thing between colours is to make sure you've got a clean brush. So I'm going to clean my brush, wipe it off on my kitchen roll before I dip it into my new mix, and so on. So at the moment I've got very, very light tones. Let's just see. Imagine I've gone through the whole range of tints between white and red, as well as the yellow and red. Then I might start mixing, starting with a lighter colour first, yellow with a tiny bit of the red, and I'll get the whole orange range now. You might think I haven't altered that much, but compared to the main yellow there, it's a much deeper golden yellow. So use that, and then I'll tint it all the way to white, and then I'll do the same thing with each of those mixes and black. You have to imagine I've also made some slightly yellow reds as well, and all the shades in between. And you see what happens to the yellow when I add black to it? You get this really nice olivey green. And then I could tint that back to white or tone it down to black and get a whole range of lights and darks just using those 4 colours. So the idea is you'll end up with a nice big swatch, if you like, paint samples of all those you made from your limited palette. So I obviously used blue and yellow and white and black there. Now you'll have guessed in the way my paper is curling here that's why we did the Turkish map fold. So when yours is dry, and you'll probably need to continue this after we've finished our workshop today, see if you can make a Turkish map fold. You need to let it dry first, and then you can stick that into your sketchbook so that when you open your sketchbook you get, ta-da, a lovely little paint swatch. Now for the really keen of you, you could try this all over again with 2 other colours. You could even do yellow and blue, yellow and orange, and the blue and the red. But a little note, a little word of warning. You may find that using that particular red and that particular blue may not give you a very good purple. It's just because that pigment there, that's quite a warm blue and that's quite a warm red, so it tends to make a bit of a muddy purple, but it's good colour anyway. If you want to push the boat out, you could always get yourself another red like a magenta and another blue, something more like a turquoisey blue, and play around with those 2. It's up to you. Make sure you leave enough of this stuff for your final piece. So anyway, just have fun with it. Remember, the idea is to just explore the colour, and again, having that in your sketchbook afterwards may give you ideas about what kind of colours you might like to mix for your final piece to get a certain kind of vibe.